So Allahabad High Court has declared that religious conversions, even when made solely for the purpose of a marriage, is a valid exercise of a personal liberty of a person. So this is declared in a case called the Salamat Ansari case. This is a very important constitutional judgment. This is important in the context of the ordinance to deal with unlawful religious conversions that Uttar Pradesh government has recently come up with. There was a lot of opposition for this particular law by the Uttar Pradesh government, and several Supreme Court judgments are also reiterating the same stance that the opponents are taking. So, if you have to understand what is the importance of this ordinance, let us have a look at the key points in this ordinance. So it makes religious conversion for a marriage a non-bailable offense. Therefore, the onus will be on the defendant to prove that conversion was not for marriage. Secondly, the notice period to the district magistrate for the religious conversion is 2 months. In case of conversion done by women for the sole purpose of a marriage, the marriage would be declared null and void. Violation of the provisions of the law would invite a jail term of not less than 1 year, extendable up to 5 years. And there is also a fine of 15,000 rupees. So, if a minor woman or a woman from the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe converts, the jail term would be a minimum of 3 years and it could be extended to 10 years with a fine of 25,000 rupees. So this is the basic framework of this particular ordinance. Now let us have a look at the Supreme Court judgments on marriage and conversion. The Supreme Court in its various judgments had held that faith, the state and the courts have no jurisdiction over an adult's absolute right to choose a life partner. Because this is intricately a part of Article 21, right to life. Every person has a right to determine how he or she has to live. India is a free and democratic country, and any interference of the state in an adult's right to love and marry has a chilling effect on freedoms. Reiterating the same stance, there are various Supreme Court judgments. Let us have a look at them one by one. If you take a look at the Hadia judgment that came out in 2017, the court has declared that matters of dress, food, ideology, of love and partnership are within the central aspect of a person's identity. So we cannot dictate terms on what should constitute our identity. The second important statement or second important judgment in this case is the Puttaswamy judgment with respect to privacy that came out in 2017. So, if you take a look at the perspective towards marriage, it denotes an autonomy of the individual and its ability to make decisions in vital matters that concerns his life. It's a very personal matter. So, it comes under the Article 21 through this privacy judgment also. Similarly, there is this Lata Singh case of 1994. The apex court held that India is going through a transformational period where constitution will remain strong only if we accept the plurality and diversity of our culture. So this marks the phase of transformative constitutionalism by the Supreme Court. So this is a period where uh, instead of parochial identities, constitutional morality came to the forefront. Similarly, even in the Soni Jerry case of 2018 and the latest one being Salamat Ansari and Priyanka Kharwar case of Allahabad High Court in 2020, all of this declared that dictating terms with respect to marriage is against the fundamental rights. Thus, the government implementing such laws needs to ensure that these do not curb one's fundamental rights or even hamper the national integration. Instead, these laws need to strike a balance between freedoms and malified conversions. So, we have to work towards containing these malified conversions rather than putting restraints on persons' personal preferences. So that is the gist of this article. This article is taken from the Live Mint and it is titled "It's Not Yet Mission Accomplished on the Center's Poshan Abhiyan." Poshan Abhiyan has been launched by the Ministry of Women and Child Development on 8th March 2018. So it is 3 years since this scheme has been launched almost. So this is about a holistic approach towards nutrition. So the parameters that this particular scheme is trying to target is stunting, undernutrition and anemia. The target that was set as per the original plan was per annum 2% should be reduced, and for anemia it is 3%. So what is the overall target? The target of the mission is to bring down the stunting among children in the age group of 0 to 6 years from 38.4% to 25%. So this is as per the National Family Health Survey data. Recently, the National Family Health Survey round 5 has come up. So what are the results in this? The data for low birth weight has not been collected properly or completely, but if we take a look at the available data, stunting, this has seen a significant improvement where almost there is a decline of 6 percentage points between the two rounds of the survey, that is NFHS 4th round and NFHS 5th round. But if we take the parameter of anemia, this has been achieved only in 18 out of 342 districts which were surveyed when we are talking about women and adolescent girls. But if you're talking about the children, it is 20 out of 342 districts which have managed to reduce 9%. Like I've said, anemia per annum 3% is the target. After the NFHS round 5 survey, the data shows that a meager 18 out of 342 when we're talking about women, and 20 out of 342 districts which were surveyed when we're talking about children. A similar trend has been observed even for stunting and undernutrition as well. The decline was observed only in 30 to 40% of the districts. So this shows that there is a significant improvement that is required in Poshan Abhiyan's targets or the activities taken under this particular scheme, especially with respect to anemia. So what is the solution that NFHS data can offer? So any policy should be backed by data. If a thorough analysis is done on the data of this NFHS round 5, we will come up with two broad patterns. One is the fact that across the districts, some districts are doing well and some districts are not doing well within the same state. This shows that priority of a few districts is much more than other districts. The second trend is the fact that there is variation within the districts as well. A few villages are doing better and a few villages are not doing that well. So this shows that the logical conclusion should be villages should be the point of planning for every program, and secondly, each village performed differently on different indicators. These indicators should be the point of focus for any policy formulation. Say for example, a particular village is not performing well with respect to anemia. This should be taken as a priority for that village and resources should be allocated appropriately. Now there might be villages which are doing well in anemia but are underperforming with respect to the indicator on stunting. For that, more allocation should be done in such a way that these villages have more food resources, and integration of other sort of schemes like midday meal scheme, etc., which have been hit by the pandemic, should be reimagined or relooked at. So this is the gist of this article.